Oneofus.net is sponsored by Circle Brewing Company. Greatest of all South by Southwest events now. Okay, not maybe as good as the Westworld event we did last year.
Yeah, no, it'd take a lot to top that.
Pretty good. But second, and they had it again this year, was their giant, just haul of cheese.
Cheese!
Glorious cheese!
Yeah, Cheeselandia, they called it.
Yeah, last year, I can't remember what it was called. It was like the world's longest cheese board or something.
Right. Now, I'm pretty sure it was twice as big last year.
It felt like it was a little bigger, but it wasn't for lack of trying this year.
I mean, look, I could tell you it was bigger last year. There's still only so much your stomach can hold. And what they had in this room was more than any stomach could hold.
Hundreds of gourmet cheeses, all from Wisconsin. But Wisconsin makes all sorts of crazy cheeses. They had Limburger, for God's sakes.
Oh, that's right. They keep it under glass. And just so you know, it's not just cheese.
Yeah,
there's popcorn, there's salami, there's prosciutto, there's figs, there's olives. There's vegetables. Yes, something to help you process all the cheese.
Pickled stuff, coffee, mimosas. There's this lady there who had this, who was supposed
the mimosa
to
queen.
The mimosa queen, with this huge dress that was like she was wearing that had places to put mimosas and you could take off. So I talked to her for a second.
May I
have a mimosa
cheese please.
Princess? I'm not.
I am the state of Wisconsin's Cheeselandia Queen 2019, Miss Mimosa.
We are grateful for you being here, Miss Mimosa.
Please enjoy a beverage. It pairs delightfully with Wisconsin cheese.
The only drawback is that they only give you little bitty plates. So you have to keep going back, and it's gaining in popularity. So if you're gonna go, it's good to get there at 9:30 when it first opens, so you can actually maneuver around and get stuff. Because by 10:15, it's packed.
Yeah, I only presume this has become popular enough they're going to do it again next year. Mm-hmm. This got so much press. Everyone was more than pleased to do their recommended hashtag South by South Wisconsin, which I did like 8 times.
8 times. You know what? I did it once, and they were quick to respond and say, "Hey, thank you for doing that."
They have someone on staff whose entire responsibility is to write pun responses to your tweets. Seriously, Courtney and I were both posting stuff, and they punned us. I was like,
you probably just start throwing them softballs at some point.
Yeah, of course. You're like, God, make this easy. I'll set them up. You knock them down, Wisconsin. The trade show, of course, this year is a big appeal every year at South by Southwest with lots of innovators in technology and showing off their wares. I got to go and do a VR thing of me basically on a Mars mission where you sit down and you have to pull yourself from rungs because you're in zero gravity and save the day. You're outside of it and something's wrong. You got to replace parts. And the guy was like, "Oh, you did it." I was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "That's it?" He's like, "Yeah, most people take like 10 minutes longer." I was like, "Oh, well, I've done a lot of VR." He's like, "Oh, okay, well, you can go." I was like, "What, there's no monster to fight?" I thought when you went to Mars, there's always a monster. This is unrealistic.
Who are you, John Carter?
Or John Carpenter. Either way, I'm a John, But let's take a look at some of the other movies that played at South by this year. So we, of course, got to see a bunch of other films other than the big ones this year. Yeah. And one of the ones you saw, I think, that impressed you was called Villains.
Villains, yes. And actually, of all the movies I saw, it was the first one that I really, really liked. It's a story of 2 young career criminals, Bill Skarsgård and I wish I could remember the actress's name, but we just saw her in Greta and in It Follows.
Oh, Micah Monroe.
Yes, okay. The 2 of them, they go around the country doing stick-ups, and they run out of gas, and they decide to break into a house just to get maybe some more gas, keys, whatever they can steal. They break into the wrong house.
Okay.
There's a little girl
Seems like a horror movie setup I'm familiar with.
Yes. A little girl chained up in the basement. And the house is owned by Kira Sedgwick and Jeffrey Donovan as fine Southern people with manners.
Seems like there was a note of sarcasm there.
Well, I mean, everything about them is fine and Southern and genteel.
They've got fried fruit pies.
Yes, except that they have a little girl chained in the basement.
Well, you know.
and they aren't
Can't be
opposed to murder.
perfect.
And they're also very weird. This is one of those movies where you go, this setup sounds familiar, but it's the writing and what these actors bring to the table that really make this movie fun and terrifying at the same time. And Bill Skarsgård, you see him as Pennywise and on Castle Rock, but you don't realize the comedic range that the guy has.
Oh, really? I don't think I've ever seen him be funny.
Yeah. And in this role, he is funny, even though you totally feel for him. It's not like he's being like he's not being a comedic, but he is. I mean, being a comedian, but he is comedic in this. Like everybody is. It walks a very fine line of being a comedy, but also a thriller. And I think for everybody who likes to see thriller, especially at midnight, it's perfect for that.
Okay.
And Jeffrey Donovan, he has this role that I just couldn't help but feel like, you know what? I bet you're supposed to go to Kevin Spacey until yeah. And if somebody's going to take
until he had young men chained up in his basement.
Right. But yeah, it's that kind of movie where you're constantly trying to guess what's going to happen, and you don't always know. But it was totally enjoyable.
So I saw a movie called Human Nature. It's a documentary about literally the most incredible innovation in science since the internet. There's this thing they described as Microsoft Word for genes, okay? So
it's like you're cutting and pasting genes.
Yes.
And they just work.
Because we've had for a while the ability to identify certain specific markers in your genes that tell you, oh, this person's going to have Down syndrome or MS or what have you. So, but the problem was it was kind of a crapshoot about like actually whether or not what they were trying to throw into the mix was going to do what they wanted it to, or have some horrible other effect, get in the wrong place. Well, this actually finds the exact sequence, like matches up wherever it appears in the gene code, snips at either end, and replaces it with the gene code they actually want in there, the fixed good version of it. So this, of course, is an amazing thing. This is like, we're talking about technology that can not only prevent children from being born with these type of birth defects, but could actually change people who are already like adults. Could fix pre-existing conditions, as it were. Obviously a pretty big deal. Now, of course, there's a lot of fear that comes along with this as well, because people are like, oh, what's to stop people from, well, insert Hitler footage here, from making all the kids blonde and blue-eyed. So they explore all that as well. But a fascinating look at really just explaining in depth and in a very easy to understand way how this technology works and what the definitively good parts are and the potentially bad parts were. But yeah, just absolutely mesmerizing, and something that like everyone really should look into, because if not this documentary, then just look it up online, because this is the future. You're going to be hearing about this almost non-stop.
Actually, I've been hearing about CRISPR for the last year in different places. Radiolab has done big things on it. Other stories. It's becoming a thing, because you're right. It's a huge leap in the knowledge of what can be done with gene therapy and just gene splicing. And I know about the fear of things turning to Gattaca, but if someone says, hey, I can cure your kid or cure you of ALS with just this process, there's no way you're going to tell them, no,
who's going to stop
refuse.
That? Who's going to go like, yeah, but what about if it turns into a Black Mirror episode? No, sorry.
Yeah.
Look back at any toasters. The first guy to invent toasters and was like, yeah, that's cool and all. I mean, we all like hot bread, but can you imagine if this was used for evil?
All right.
HBO was back again this year at South by Southwest with their Game of Thrones exhibit, Bleed for the Throne. This was sponsored by a blood drive and part of a much bigger effort with the hashtag For the Throne. And of course, Game of Thrones is really, really bloody and about to be considerably bloodier on the final season, which launches on HBO April 14th. But what we had here, there was a actual Iron Throne set up. There was a huge choir that was sort of non-stop singing and looked really exhausted by the time I got in there. There was a lot of actors walking around in full uniform from the various different tribes on the show. It was nowhere near the level of the Westworld exhibit that had been there the previous year that Martin and I went to, but still, it was nice to see them put in a lot more effort into this particular installation than, to be clear, most people put into their installations at South by Southwest. It was fun but short, and it ended with a free burger and a drink, so who am I to complain? Oneofus.net is sponsored by Circle Brewing Company, located in Austin, Texas at 2340 West Breaker Lane, Suite B. You can go visit them there at their both brew pub and brewery and try a lot of their seasonals that they have there, or you can get their beers in various stores around town and even, from what I'm told, outside of Texas. Please check out Circle Brewery and their many fine craft beers, sponsor of Oneofus.net.